talks to a career diplomat with over 35 years working at the highest levels of government in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Presidency, the Embassy of Nigeria in the Netherlands, and the Consul General of Nigeria in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, Ambassador Joe Keshi. Your Excellency, Ambassador Joe Keshi, thank you for joining us on Newsnight as we discuss the issues happening around Niger and the ECOWAS sub-region. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let me just start off by asking you how you have been. It's been a hectic few days since the 28th of July, and I'm sure you've had so many calls coming to you to say one thing or the other about this matter.
Well, you're right, but we're surviving it, and we are watching, and we're trying the best we can to make people and Nigerians understand exactly what is at stake in, on issues like this. For me, that has always been my interest in terms of my public engagement, to enlighten people and ensure that they have a clear understanding of the issues, that we are discussing.
Okay, Ambassador Keshi, let's go back again. So 28th of July came in, it was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people. I mean, considering the fact that just a few days or a few weeks before that, the Nigerian president took over as the chairman of the ECOWAS, and he made a statement that many considered as a decisive statement, pointing to the direction that Nigeria, the ECOWAS sub-region, and indeed Africa was headed. Democracy all the way. So what do you think? Is this a reaction to that?
In my engagement with some of my colleagues, I have asked them what is so decisive and courageous about such a statement. In the first instance, I'm actually puzzled, very puzzled, by the fact that, in his acceptance speech as ECOWAS chairman, that the president focused on the issues of coup or coups, when there are more fundamental issues affecting the region and the states in the region. There is underdevelopment, there is poverty, there is democracy in retreat, so many other issues. There's, ECOWAS is as old as how many years now? More than almost 40 years. And we are nowhere near integration, because ECOWAS was set up for the economic integration of the region. But it has been distracted over the years by issues of, insecurity and the rest of it. I mean, for example, for 10 years, ECOWAS was doing nothing but trying to sort out Liberia and Sierra Leone. So there are more fundamental issues that I thought the president should have focused on. And I was actually surprised that he focused on coup. And I've been asking myself, what exactly led to this issue of coup, when he said we shall no longer accept coups or encourage coups or something like that? This is not something you can control for so many reasons. So you don't go ahead promising, to deal with something you cannot control. And as I don't know whether to say luck or fortune we have it, a few weeks after, he's not confronted with, a situation in Niger, that I'm not too sure how well prepared. And I just think that yesterday's communique, by the heads of states, I'm not sure that they are thinking the whole thing through and proper.
So, but if since you've gone directly to that, let's look at that. Those sanctions that were put out against the Niger Republic, there are those who would argue that indeed there are very strong sanctions, and they look like, well, you say you don't think they've been thought through, but they look like sanctions that had maybe been applied to some other nations and they had worked. So applying it here, because it's not just Niger, there's still the other matter about Mali that is yet to be resolved. So maybe the decision...
Has sanctions worked in Mali has sanctioned work in Guinea, because the presidents of Mali and the coup plotters or those who took over government in Guinea and in Mali, they have not repented. They have not restored the democratically elected government that they overthrew. They are still there. So I don't really know how you say that sanctions will work. And in the case of Niger, bear in mind that Niger has a wide, I think border with about 6 or so or 7 countries.
7 African countries.
7 African countries. Cameroon is not a member of ECOWAS. So we have to consult Cameroon to make it work. Mali will be very happy to have to have somebody in its own camp who has defined others and assist Niger leaders to survive. So you begin to see the intricate nature of this thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not in support of coups or military intervention, But what we must realize is that sometimes it is a failure of leadership. It is a failure to address some fundamental issues, particularly concerning the welfare of the people, that encourages the military, to rise. You could see the demonstrations that are taking place in Niger, for example. Look, the whole of the Sahel region is in crisis. And I thought that this is an area we should have focused to find out how do we deal with this crisis in the Sahel regions. But instead, we started talking of coups, and here we are confronted with coups. I've heard some people talk of military intervention. For goodness sake, I think we should stop overreacting and trying to make ourselves, unnecessarily big boys. This is something you can, after our ECOMOD experience, I thought we should be more circumspect in deciding military actions, particularly given the fact that in the last 10 or so years, our own military have had issues trying to resolve the insecurity in Nigeria, particularly in the Northeast. And as of today, the Nigerian military, I think it's in 32 out of the 36 states. So already our military is overstretched. And when we went to Liberia and Sierra Leone, by the way, we were not too well prepared, but along the way, we started getting our acts together. At that time, we had the resources. We had a very strong military, and you saw what they did. Today, we are facing serious economic problems at home. I'm not too sure we have the resources for any military engagement outside this country. Besides that, in ECOMOG, the rest of West Africa, and in fact Africa, virtually left Nigeria to carry the body. Are they going to do the same to us now when we don't have the resources? So there are a number of issues that we need to consider. And look, it's okay to condemn coups, but we must not forget what often leads to coups. The same ECOWAS heads of states at some point decided that they were going to outlaw unconstitutional change of government. Some leaders, I remember Togo, I remember, I think, Senegal, I remember, I don't know whether Ivory Coast was involved. These leaders, 3 leaders, opposed doing that, and the other member states agreed with them. Why did they refuse that? Because they wanted to extend their stay in power. Mm. And so these are some of the things that, and not only do they want to extend their stays in power, they are not being just, they are not being fair, they are not being equitable in their countries, they are not developing the country as they should. And so when people begin to cry out and the military strikes, it is not for us, the rest of us, not to face the reality. We should find a better way of dealing with the situation. So I'm in favor of saying, let's talk these guys out of the madness they've gotten themselves into. But if they say no, we better find a better way, because for me, my surprise is to hear everybody saying, or some people say, oh, we should invade, we should put troops together. You cannot even organize troops in 7 days.
But Ambassador